Hello, this is the Harboring Light. I'm Mary. I give a conservative perspective about the world around me. Feedback is immensely important, and as I said, I stretch it so importantly. And as you've seen on Monday, what I say. Feel free to reach out, and you will be featured. If you have input, you want to be on the show, you will be featured. All you got to do is email me. All right, so some of the audio platforms that I'm on: Speaker, thank you so much; Spotify, Pandora, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, just to name a few. So thankful to be on so many different platforms here. All right, so this episode is all about the aspects and how the origins, everything about No Shave November. Here we go. Okay, so I want to get into a lot of my thoughts about this before I, get into the facts. So, I think it's really detrimental to the benefit of society when you don't implement the aspects of how important male figures are into, well, men here, not male figures. Well, that can, what I mean by male figures here, the aspects of real men here, not men pretending to be men, or this whole transgender stuff, or men that were born men here. It's detrimental to the aspects of the flourishment and the development of society. Now, I'm not just saying this as a mouthpiece, because it's unfortunate that you get people who say all these things, and that's really helpful and is wise, but they don't actually mean it. They're just saying it because it's popular to do so. But I really mean this. And so, case in point, let me tell you why I mean this. So, when you are raised without the aspects of a father in your home, is really detrimental. A child can really feel that. And it changes the mentality of how you view yourself in the world. And personally, that was impactful for me. And then it was impactful for, other people I knew. But, even more so myself here. And so, and thankfully, I had the mentality to say, just because I had these issues, this upbringing, that doesn't define me. I'm going to hold on and say that there is, but even though it's a cliche, it's really true. There is a light at the end of the tunnel. And I just have to be persistent. And I also have to internally look within myself in order to be able to win the goal of what I'm seeking. And I was able to find the love of my life, and I'm very happy. I'm married with 3 children. I'm very blessed. And then also within that, even though that the circumstances in my life between the relationship of my father and mother and everything, you know, is far better for you to be the person to break the cycle. And then I've done that to mend the relationship, and you know they have a relationship with my children, because I want my children to know how impactful that is, to know where you come from and your roots and everything else. Now, this is detrimental into the aspects of having a strong support system and having someone, really a man of character like my husband, and instilling the values that I have, and instilling this even more so into our children. And you know, this is all responsible because of a loving relationship of a 2-parent household, and then even more importantly, of a strong male role. Now, mainstream media would like to beg to differ and like to say otherwise. You know, I remember when I was growing up, I stress this a lot in my podcast. You know, I'm a 90s kid here. And so it was very, very prevalent at that time to say, yeah, sisterhood, you know, I don't need no man, I don't need this, that, and the other. And then it's just so many examples of that. You know, you get from, and then it's no surprise why Disney is the, crap hole that it is today. These things implement itself because this is the excuse that Disney says to justify the insanity that is the movies content that they are flushing out today. They say, you know, we are the brand that's on the cusp of, you know, not submersion, being the subculture, subversive, so to speak, you know, and that's what we center ourselves around. So, I mean, that's one thing to do that, but when the propriety of the image of Walt Disney and of Disney is families and, you know, being traditional, I think that's disrespectful. So, going back to, you know, me growing up in the 90s, you know, you see moms, you know, and making it on their own, and being a single mom, trying to figure everything out. And then you get this in television, and you get this all over the place. You know, advertisement, you know, when you have, you know, it's nothing wrong with wanting to be very successful in your life. That should be the aspiration, you know, male or female. This should be an aspiration. You should have those goals. But when it comes to the implement of not having anything outside of your own self, that's an issue. And so when you have, I know this is going to be a controversial topic, but this is something, this is why I'm proud to have this platform, because, I honestly want to, speak on these things and just say, call it for what it is. So, what was the point of me talking about all these things? It leads to this. So, you have all of these special, months, most of all that is centered towards women's health. There's so many different practices for women's health. It's all under the sun. But when it comes to men's health and men's issues, most of the time you can hear crickets going off in the background. Why is that? Maybe it's because, I can see the arguments or, the critique of this saying, well, Mary, hey, most of the time, men don't really care about their health. They'll just have, the images that you see. Well, it's just, all I gotta do is walk it off. Or all I gotta do is do this and it'll be fine. I don't need a doctor. I don't need this. I don't need that. This goes on. I mean, there are men that are like that, but that is not the consensus of, that's a different entity of psychological reasons why not wanting to take care of your health or not being trusting of doctors. And that can happen on both sides, male and female. That's what needs to be understood here. And so that's why I think it's very prevalent when you have, movements like this and getting to the point to where it's getting into the mainstream consciousness to understand how very valuable it is for a man's awareness to be brought to the forefront. Because after all, it must be understood, it must be respected here that the contributions that men have brought to our society is enormous. When you think about even something as simple as, everyday items, when you think about electricity, when you think about, the aspects of waste, when you think about the aspects of the, wherever you live, apartment, duplex, house, this goes on. Men were in the construction format of that. Now there's images of, that push this aspect. So, women can do anything. You see a woman, being like a project manager on a construction site and all these things. That's rare. That's not something that is, normal, a normal thing to do. And you get the aspects, you call it for what it is, even though it was had a lot of problems, personally growing up in my home. My dad, he worked at a power plant. He, essentially, and that was a lot of hard work. And I equate this back into the aspects of taking this into another level to really see it for this, and then I'll go back and talk about my husband's father. All right, so then it makes me, like I said, with my dad, he used to work in a power plant, and then he also told me about the aspects of him losing his hearing because of everything, because it's a lot of noise and all of these things that goes in the aspects of working in a factory or, working in that industry. And so, Homer, for example, he worked. All right, so of course, sources will be provided for you. Okay. Now I'm going to read the AI generated response here. So it says, No Shave November originated in 2009 as a grassroots Facebook campaign by the Hill family from Illinois to honor their father, Matthew Hill, who died from colon cancer in November of 2007. That movement encourages participants to forego shaving for the month of November to raise awareness and funds for cancer research and patient support, symbolizing solidarity with cancer patients who often lose their hair during treatment. Now, the campaign began as a personal tribute to Matthew Hill, with his children aiming to spark conversations about cancer and support related charities. The core rule of the movement is to abstain from shaving for the entire month, with participants encouraged to donate the money they could have spent on grooming to cancer-related causes. While the movement shares similarities with Movember, which started in Australia in 2003, No Shave November is a distinct initiative. It's distinctly focused on cancer awareness and fundraising, particularly for colon, prostate, and testicular cancers. As of 2025, the campaign has raised over $13 million and continues to participate with organizations like American Cancer Fund to support cancer education and patient resources. All right, so I'm going to get into some more facts. Now, this is by Weatherbeard Supply Co. Okay, so they're going to go into the aspects about the story behind No Shave November, meaning, history, and beard care tips, if you're interested in that. So, why did this all start? It says, this is a valid question. It says, first off, all sorts of like a dry January is just has a ring to it. So, it's a marketing tool, they say. It sounds catchy. The No Shave November. The catch-all phrase for that. So, love loose rims and alterations after all. So perhaps because of that, it loosens its meaning over time, and you've forgotten why you've even grown it out every November. So they go into, talking about that. Now they're going to go into the depths about the aspects behind No Shave November, the history and the meaning. So, no, it did not start in a log cabin, and that's quite witty there, in backwoods, Montana, one crisp autumn morning, though that would be a good story. Actually, what happened, you can trace this to the roots of giving up shaving all the way back to ancient Greece. It says philosopher Plato believed that growing a beard for 30 days could help one acquire knowledge and wisdom. Says his student Aristotle even wrote in Necronomic Ethics, no man can be trusted if he is without a beard. So for that reason, beard growth training is as important as proper training in ethics. So how does this, relate to what we're talking about now, No Shave November? Here we go with this. So they say, fast forward a couple of thousand years, and here we are watching each other's beard growing in on social media, just like the Greeks imagined. Now, the modern No Shave November movement began with a far more meaningful purpose than that. The Hill family from Chicago started it as a fundraising initiative after losing their father, Matthew Hill, to colon cancer, as I mentioned earlier. They launched noshave.org, that is, to encourage people to stop shaving and embrace their natural hair, and donate the money they normally spend on grooming to cancer research and awareness. No Shave November is a month-long journey during which participants forego shaving and grooming in order to evoke conversations and raise cancer awareness. So, the goal of No Shave November is to grow awareness by embracing our hair, which many cancer patients lose, and letting it grow wild and free. So donate the money you typically spend on shaving, and it says to educate about the prevention of cancer, to save lives, and also to aid those fighting in the battle. So, says, let's go on. It says No Shave November versus Movember. What's the difference between the two? So here's another sub-question we weren't sure about. Is there a difference between No Shave November and Movember, or are they the same thing with different nicknames? Turns out they are entirely different movements that happen to have similar goals. They are separate initiatives started by different charity groups halfway around the world from each other. Movember is nearly a decade older. So Movember Foundation was started in 2003 in Melbourne, Australia, by a group of 30 people who stopped shaving for 30 days to raise awareness for prostate cancer and depression in men. This movement grew and was then cultivated around the world, or spread throughout the world. Now, No Shave November surely took some inspiration from Aussie Brothers, from their Aussie Brothers here. The Chicago-based Hill family started No Shave November as a fundraising initiative 2 years after losing their family patriot. So Matthew Hill, to colon cancer, as stated, he left behind 8 children and started No Shave. I'm sorry. Let me restate that again. I misread that. His 8 children started No Shave org, which is, he left behind, and his 8 children did this, and that's very noble of them. So, and as I said, respect goes a long way. I'm telling you. The American version of the movement to raise money for cancer fighting foundations. So to date, they have helped raise more than $10 million. So, why beards matter during No Shave November? Again, it's an easy way to support your fellow man while they're fighting. You're growing. It's pretty easy, low effort, and commitment to make. So they're also saying if you're a male over 45, it's time to get your colonoscopy and prostate exam. And that's early detection, saves life, and it helps to ensure your colon health, everything, your health, and you can keep growing that luscious beard there. And I want to end on this. Now, I can't stress enough to say that you are what you eat, and your health. Without your health, you have nothing. Now, organizations like this and movements like this really prove that point, because they're saying that it's far better here to have a platform and to have people who have been through tremendous loss to share and give their story, and also with the aspects of how this is a global impact of, with what Movember and everything, and how these things are different, but they are similar, and they relay the same message, that men's health awareness is everything. Your health is everything, and it's something that should not be silenced. And it means more, so much more, your health, and how serious the impact it is when you decline and don't know, and you don't have the education or the facts. When you have a family involved, it's unspeakable, of the price that can be paid by not knowing and not having the awareness of prevention and everything, and how implement it is, just simply having the education and the prevention of everything. And also, I want to add on to this, how now it's unfortunate that more is more now, and people buying in bulk, and one isn't enough. You got to get more, and then just instant gratification. That in itself, all these things, with the aspects, the aspects of social media, making it seem like this is normal, and how that leaks out into mainstream culture. It's proven, it's getting away from the point of how valuable health is, and how control is very prominent in the aspects of well-being too. And that's something to say with the aspects of how important causes like these are to bring awareness to health and well-being of men, and the contribution of that. All right, with all this said, I greatly would like to know your thoughts on this episode. Feel free to reach out. This reaches the end of the Harboring Light. Tune in, turn up, and absolutely take care. Bye-bye for now.